Kenya has accused the UN of scapegoating and took a personal dig at the Secretary-General as it rejected the findings of an independent commission of inquiry that recommended the replacement of a Kenyan Force Commander to the UN mission in South Sudan. Now, that inquiry investigating the response of UN peacekeepers to an attack on the Terrain Hotel compound in Juba in July found that a lack of leadership on the part of key senior mission personnel culminated in a chaotic and even ineffective response to that violence. In response, Nairobi said it would withdraw its over 1,000 troops from the mission and disengage from the peace process in South Sudan. Sherwin Bryce-Pease filed this report.
I call the press officer if I have any questions.
Kenya's envoy accused the inquiry of having a preordained outcome, calling the investigation shameful and an exercise in scapegoating of one of their finest military men.
It cannot be right, however, that only one individual should shoulder the blame in the case of clear systems failure, as was the case around this incident. The investigation could not and should not have been just about the force commander, who was only 3 weeks old in his assignment when these incidents transpired, but rather should have centered on the events and responses, the failure of the system, the need of collective responsibility and accountability from DPKO here at headquarters through to the Joint Operations Command of UNMISS in Juba.
He says they went to great lengths to implore the Secretary-General not to single out Lieutenant General Mokgoa Ondieki, accusing the UN more broadly of deep dysfunction in its peacekeeping operations.
Kenya went to great lengths to implore the Secretary-General not to single out any one individual for what we will continually insist is a systemic failure in the United Nations system. The Secretary-General, in his lame duck season, seems to have found the courage that has eluded him throughout his tenure by choosing to ignore Kenya's plea.
The Secretary-General is said to be standing by his decision despite Kenya's threat to withdraw troops.
The report looked at what happened and the decisions that were taken on that day. Mr. Cameron went in with an open mind. He came up with the recommendations that he came up with. Again, I can't stress how much we value Kenya's support for peacekeeping over the last decades, the work that Kenyan troops have done and we hope will continue to do. The decision taken by the Secretary-General was not a decision about Kenya, it was a decision about a force commander.
The UN dismissed the notion that the inquiry had a preordained outcome while calling the removal of the general an initial decision, indicating others might follow. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
Kenyan